prompted. So Toni was just talking about the different types of joint ventures.
Yep.
So you'd been through a straight loan, roll up, and then you were on to
50-50 or a partnership joint venture. We do ours 50-50, but the partnership joint venture being each partner brings something different to the joint venture. In the ones we do, our joint venture partners bring the funds and we get them ownership of properties completely hands-free. The part that I fulfil is all of the legwork part, so finding the property, funding it, doing all of the, usually remotely for the other joint venture partners. So they are the two most common joint venture structures. There are a multitude of others.
So what about, so for me and my husband, we were quite apprehensive about doing joint ventures with people. Obviously, people's circumstances change. You may fall out
or fall over.
What would you say to people? What is the making of a successful joint venture with somebody?
I would say without a shadow of a doubt, it is identifying from the start what your aims are, but also overcoming your fears and concerns. In my experience, that makes a good joint venture, but also, thankfully, touching wood, not in my experience, the ones that I've known that have gone awry, gone amiss, have been where people haven't looked at the potential faults or failures of it. And I think it's the fear usually around, well, I don't want to talk about the negatives, when actually if you sit down, and a good relationship is without a shadow of a doubt the basis of a good joint venture. If you can't comfortably talk through any problems, because problems will always arise, things that go, are beyond your control. If you can't comfortably talk them through, then your joint venture is going to go amiss. So without a shadow of a doubt, it's the relationship you build up before and during the joint venture.
So do you recommend, obviously, before you've even kind of agreed what type of joint venture you want to do with someone, you sit down and say, right, this is what I want out of it, these are my concerns, and so then that's the start of potentially a contract?
Totally, that is usually the start of your heads of terms, it's known as, which is just a blank piece of paper. I always tell everyone, start with a blank piece of paper. You'll have your ideas on what you want it to look like, what you expect out of the joint venture and what you fear. And I will too, and they won't necessarily be the same. So it's about both sitting down with your list of wants and wishes, your list of fears and concerns, and literally putting solutions to paper for each potential eventuality. Now, my joint venture agreements will also have things that I've learned from other people's joint ventures where they've gone wrong or potential issues that have arisen. And that then forms your heads of terms. So that is just a document detailing what you both want from it.
And do you have one template that you use for all your joint ventures, or is it very tailored to each individual scenario? They're
totally tailored to each scenario. I have one that I use as a base, which is I use it as a tick list, if you like, of this is what we need to make sure we cover. But no two joint ventures are the same, even if they're the same partnership, even if it's the same people, or because the property may be different, or the outcome may be different, or even if you think it's the same structure, so you think it's going to be a 50-50 straight joint venture, no two will be the same. So might have a base for it, but then your joint venture agreement is drawn up based on those heads of terms.
And do you always get, so when you do a contract with your joint venture partner, do you always get that run through a solicitor? Is that?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10 we'll go through a solicitor, because we've worked with the same joint venture partners a few times. For some of them we'll use the base joint venture that we've always used and just tweak it. But especially in any new joint venture, also with the people that you think, it's friends or it's family members, draw up the joint ventures, get it signed off through a solicitor, because as you rightly say, Laura, you never know what's going to happen. There could be a fallout, there could be things that happen that you haven't discussed in your heads of terms. So I would say get it done with a joint venture. It's money well spent with a solicitor.
Good. Cool. So that takes us on to, how do you qualify your joint venture partners? How do you, obviously from a deal packaging side, obviously we know there's sophisticated, there's unsophisticated. Can you just explain what the rules and regs around that is?
So there are legalities all around joint ventures, and the fact that the FCA regs, Financial Conduct Authority regulations, determine who you can joint venture with and who you can loan from. In terms of loans, they're quite basic. For joint ventures, which we're focusing on specifically, the FCA regulations state that you cannot joint venture with someone until you've qualified them as a sophisticated investor. To be classed as a sophisticated investor, you need to meet certain criteria, and I'll give you the base of it now, but there's other things that could be included. But the joint venture partners need to each earn in excess of £100,000 per year. And this is an and/or scenario, so it's not you've got to tick every box. That they have net assets to the value of £250,000 or more. that they are FCA regulated themselves. If you're FCA regulated, obviously you've already met the requirements in another capacity. Or if you have made 2 unregulated investments within a 12-month period. Yeah. And an unregulated investment could be any number of things. Now, it's still not a case of, oh, you tick those boxes so we can work together. For me, so for legalities-wise, you have to get the proof of identification, proof of funds to showcase that they meet any or all of those criteria. And only at that point can you discuss joint ventures. Discussing a joint venture, discussing the deal prior to that is illegal. So keep yourself safe. Qualify people before you even discuss individual deals or joint ventures, looking at whether you want to work together.
Oh, thank you. So in regards to joint ventures, I mean, I'm sure people are out there, where did these ventures come from? Where did these relationships build? Were they from VIP or...
So my first joint venture partners were family members who I didn't realise they were in the position to be able to fund anything. We'd never really discussed working together, but it was straight roll-up loans that we'd done with those, and then thereafter it was being a part of the VIP community. So next joint venture partners were part of the community, and they introduced us to other joint venture partners, which you never think will happen. That, like, why would you introduce me to someone who's funding your deals? We've got joint venture partners from social media, through word of mouth. Yeah. So a lot of it is about you getting yourself out there, which Laura's teaching you exactly how to do that with social media now. Social media can be an absolute awesome tool for you to get to where, yeah, absolutely. Because people need to know what you do, what you stand for and against, and start building that relationship up, because it's not a case of you meet someone one day and they'll joint venture with you the next.
No, that's right.
It's happened now and again. But you've got to start building those relationships. So the more people know about you, the more you get yourself out there and you start nurturing those relationships, then obviously meet the legalities before you discuss joint ventures.
So what would you say to somebody who was just starting out on the property journey, they not necessarily have got property and feel a little bit why would somebody invest in me? Because obviously that's a very common question in our little world.
I think that's point one, is know that you're not the only one in that position. I'm pretty sure every single one of us who has ever done a joint venture, and I'll definitely volunteer that I did feel this way. I've got no experience. I'd actually been an accidental landlord and made loads of mistakes. So it's like, well, why would anyone invest in someone who's made mistakes? Yeah. When actually that's exactly why people will invest, if you've overcome them. So identifying that you've made mistakes in the past, that you've overcome them, and sharing that, letting people know what you do. In addition to that, it's also making sure that you look at both sides of the coin. So look at what your wants and needs are, look at what theirs are, and look at what your skill set is now. So you might think, and this is something that you're laughing because we've done a huge section around this on our joint venture training, is that everyone has skills, transferable, transmutatable skills from their job role, transmutation, from your job role, from your business, from your studies, from negotiating with children, all of those things that we just tend to brush under the carpet. So it's about looking and also working with people who work closely with you. So it might be sitting down with your partner, your business partner, your friends, and saying, what am I good at? Because they'll see things in you that you don't.
We've definitely done that, me and my husband.
Absolutely.
100%.
You don't realise, because what you tend to do, and I've seen this in so many joint ventures, is the thing that you need the most becomes the be-all and end-all, and you pedestalise it. If only I had the money, I could be successful. So all the other stuff that you've got, the skills, the job roles that you've done previously, the negotiation skills, the people management skills, they just get sidetracked. Absolutely. Because I need the money. Whereas if you think, well, if I had the money, it would make things better, but what do I have to offer? So it's looking at what your skills are now, what you've got to offer, and making sure everyone knows what they are.
And that everyone knows what you're actually doing. Which
absolutely,
I think is a key thing.
People don't know, so if people don't know what you do, and I tell everybody what I do, whether that is people I meet sat on a train, because I talk to everyone. My husband always
clearly not a southerner. No, I'm joking. I'm joking, guys.
She said that, not me. Talk to everybody, tell them what you do it on your social media, do it when you meet people, and people say, well, what do you do? I used to say, well, I'm a HR manager, because I was, by a day job. But actually, I'm an investor, I give people a great return on their money. Anyway, what do you do? So what you've just done is planted a little idea in their head, I give people a great return on the money, or help them build a portfolio completely hands-free. Anyway, what do you do? And then it just seeds a little thing in there for people, and some people it's right for and other people it isn't. But if everyone knows what you do, everyone knows what you stand for and against, and you start showcasing what your value is, that's when you start building good relationships.
And just to reinforce that point that you've said, so last week before the super conference, I went to Matalan to get some new clothes.
As you do.
And the lady's like, oh, you're going anywhere nice? And I said, oh, it's for work. And she's like, oh, what do you do? And I said, now, unbeknownst to me, the lady on the checkout, two down, her house had just fallen through the sale that morning.
Tell everyone
and she
what
came
you do.
over, she went, I don't suppose you've got a card? I'm like, oh, yes. So always carry cards as well.
Absolutely. Everywhere you go.
But yeah, thank you very much, Toni. I'm sure it's been really super helpful to all you guys out there, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.